Today is transgender training, okay? Transgender training. Keep your eyes on me. I like to walk around a lot. Want to make sure I get the message across. A couple things before we get started. They're taping this today, so when you ask a question and the mic comes to you, speak into the mic and speak clear so Jose can get you on film, on camera, so we can be straight. All right? Use your outside voice. All right? Today, along with transgender training, we're going to make sure we have the questions addressed by our panel. We got Sergeant Shepard from IG, we have Colonel Rivera from SJA, and we have Chaplain Sedgwick from the Chaplain's Office. Do we have anybody in here from ACE-Med? ACE-Med. Oh, I got a special seat for you, VIP, up front. VIP. See, that's one VIP. You right to slide down. Let her get her VIP seat. This is the panel. And the reason we have a panel is because if the questions arise that I can't answer, we refer to the panel. I'm not smart. I just look like this. So, another thing I want to cover real quick is we can agree to disagree, but we will not have altercations. Does that make sense to everybody? So if Colonel Druitt disagreed with Dan Meyer, okay, you already know you're going to lose that battle. Okay? So let's just resort to being gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, and do it professional, and do it like we know we can, and do the training, okay? The key is getting the information and doing the training. You may agree to disagree, but that's okay. This issue is here. So I can remember back when all the Sergeant Majors and I conducted this training. Remember Sergeant Major? Yeah, good training. I don't want it to be that long this time. I want us to get the point across, deal with it, and roll out. Let me get the first slide. We're going over the policy of military service of transgender soldiers training, okay? This is Tier 3 training. Most of the leaders in here have already had Tier 1 or Tier 2, right? We already got that. Raise your hand if you had Tier 1, Tier 2. Okay, just because you had Tier 1, Tier 2 doesn't make you a subject matter expert. I want to cover that right off the bat, okay? I'm not the total subject matter expert, but the command has proposed special trust and confidence in me to make sure I get the message across to you, okay? And if you have a question, wait on the mic, speak into the mic, we'll answer your question, and we'll move on. Can we get the next slide? All right. Our mission is to defend this country. We don't want to wait to barriers and unrelated issues to slow things down from us doing that, right? We need to be prepared in recruiting and retaining the soldier, sailor, airman, Marines, whatever the case, okay? We need to be able to recruit 100% of the force. That means lottie-dottie, everybody, okay? If you can see in bold, starting today, otherwise qualified service members can no longer be involuntarily separated, discharged, denied reenlistment or continuation of service just for being transgender. Signed by Ash Carter, June 30th, 2016. So, with that being said, and you know what the main statement and the mission is, does that mean that we're going to change that today? No. Does Sergeant Major Alfonso, are we going to change that today? No, it's already here. So what we got to do is we got to get smarter so that we can deal with the day-to-day operations of the mission, supporting our commands and doing the right thing, right? Okay, I'm going to have to get some ups and downs and some roger that, some tracking, so we don't want to stretch this thing out. All right, next slide. The purpose. This module provides training of the Department of Defense, Army, policy allowing the open service of transgender soldiers. It's an overview of the roles and responsibilities. Okay, it's pinpoint. Next slide. This is the policy. The Army allows. What part did you didn't get? The Army allows transgender soldiers to serve openly. Can somebody read the second bullet for me?
The Army is open to all who can meet the standards for military service and remains committed to treating all soldiers with dignity and respect while ensuring good order and discipline.
Dignity and respect, no matter what. All right? Somebody give me the third one.
All soldiers must maintain Army standards, good order, and discipline at all times.
Standards, good order, and discipline at all times. Not on the weekend, not just on Fridays. 24/7, right? That's what we do. Somebody give me number 4.
Transgender soldiers are subject to the same standards as any other soldier with the same gender marker.
Okay. We got to understand that. There's still standards. Once the gender marker is changed, that individual is stuck to that standard. Understand? Okay? And we'll get deeper into that as we go along. Last one.
Otherwise qualified soldiers shall not be involuntarily separated, discharged, or denied reenlistment or continuation of service on basis.
Basically what the mission statement said. All soldiers are treated with dignity and respect at all times. If you remember that, this will help you understand this policy. Next slide. Gender transition complete. Gender marker change. Okay? Who out of the group understands what transition complete means? Somebody help me out. Stand up. We got a mic out there? Oh, that's the only one right there? Okay, go ahead.
So, my understanding is that complete means once that operation or that procedure is done, then they're identified as male or female on their ears, then that means transition complete.
Okay. Administrative status indicating that a soldier has completed the medical care necessary to achieve the stability and preferred gender. Okay? Who can do that? Who can do that? It says it in the first line. Medical what? Medical care. All right? The transgender marker. Transgender marker is done and relates to what? DEERS, right? Once that mark has been placed in DEERS, the mark is complete. All right? Now, what you have to understand and get wrapped around about is the fact that there is a process. There's a process. And the process works like this. The individual notices there's an issue. The medical professional makes their assessment. There's a 24-month process. I do believe it's a 24-month process. So you just can't say, today is Thursday, and I want to do this. And then when times get rough and tough, I want to change. It doesn't work like that. It's a 24-month process. Okay? Anybody got anything to add to that? Next slide. Prohibition of harassment and discrimination. Nothing's changed. It's not tolerated. Harassment and discrimination of any kind. Because in the mission statement, it says is allowed. Right? So you can't harass or discriminate from the start, right? The Army will not what with harassment and discrimination? They will not tolerate it. We won't have it. Okay? We need everybody to understand that. All we're doing is adding another group to what we already have. Everybody clear? I just want to make sure because everybody, started little looking at me like, okay, well, I still have my opinion. I'm not telling you not to have your opinion, but I'm telling you what the policy is. Okay, next slide. These are the terms. Gender identity. Somebody tell me what gender identity means.
One's internal or personal sense of being male or female.
What's that mean? What's that mean? It's a what? It's a personal assessment. PAO, what's that mean to you?
Exact same thing.
Okay. So he must not have been to none of my training before, and he just realized that he became Colonel Druid, and all the questions are coming to you. No, I mean, I really want to know what that means to you. It really means what that person identifies with, right? That's what it's all about, all right? Gender dysphoria. Who can read that? Tell me what it means. Use your outside voice.
A medical diagnosis that refers to distress that some transgender individuals experience due to mismatch between their gender and their sex assigned birth.
Okay. Medical diagnosis. That's the beginning. Medical diagnosis. You just can't make up in your mind, okay, that's me. That's what I'm going to be doing. You have to have a medical diagnosis and start to go through the process. All right? Medically necessary. What's that mean? G1. That is needed. Why? See, I told you. Why? Those healthcare services or supplies necessary to prevent, diagnose, or treat an illness, injury, condition, disease, or its symptoms that meet accepted standards of medicine. Again, by a medical professional. Okay? All right? Real life experience. Somebody help me out. I'll help you out. The phase in the gender transition process when the individual commences living socially in the gender role consistent with their preferred gender. What's that mean, Captain? What's that mean? Help me out. I don't know. Just say you don't know. I don't know. Where does this normally happen? Say it again. Off duty. Because they don't want their peers or subordinates or leaders or whatever to know. It's kind of like a secret, right? You've heard of that before. It's kind of like a secret, like you live in a double life, but you know that this is going to draw attention, right? Back in the day when I came in, pretty long time ago, if you had a mental health issue, you were already marked. Who remembers that? Oh, every sergeant major in 06 and 05 just sitting in here. Okay, so we're trying to gauge this thing. Preferred gender. What is the preferred gender? What's the preferred gender? G4? Date element in the Defense Enrollment Eligibility Reporting System, DEERS, that identifies the service member's gender. Next slide. These are terms continued that you need to know about. The transgender soldier, gender transition process, stable and preferred gender. So all of that is the process of how this thing starts and how it ends up. Okay? There's a process. Anybody got any questions about the process? Okay, y'all. Let's say again. Anybody? Good. Next slide. Roles and responsibilities. These are the roles and responsibilities. If you look up there in the blue, it tells you how it starts. It starts with the transgender soldier. They initiate the process. So who initiates the process? The soldier. Now, what's the next step after they initiate the process? Provide diagnosis, develop a treatment plan. You got to have a treatment plan, right? So then, who else is involved in this process? Say that again. Say it again. Somebody help her out, man. I mean, all right, because there's going to be a test at the end of this thing. All right? The commander. Then the Army Service Central Coordination Cell, which is where? Headquarters DA. So here's the process. There's where it starts. That's where it ends. Policy, guidance, and sample memos are available on the mill site on how to do this. Okay? Next slide. initiates the process, maintains individual readiness, and meets Army standards. Okay? Soldier who identifies as transgender should seek assistance from their military medical provider. So basically, we don't want you making this decision on your own on a Friday night that this is what you're going to do. You got to go through the medical process by a medical professional to determine the process. For you to initiate it and you go through the process. Okay? Any questions? Next slide. All right. We know a couple things. We know there's a process. Right? Anybody know how long the process is? 24 months. Who starts the process? The soldier. Who's part of the process? Two people. Medical and commander. All right? Now we're going to read over these vignettes real quick, and I want to get some opinions. So just because you give me your opinion, does that change the fact that it's allowed? Okay, so don't put your dukes up and all that, wanting to fight Sergeant Major Reimer because he don't agree with what PAO said. No, you ain't gonna meet him in the back. Hold on. Hold what you got. He a little bit bigger than you. I don't know. All right. Vignette. A soldier in your unit tells everyone that although he was born male, he identifies as female. He explains that he is beginning the process of transitioning from male to female. What kind of issues that can come related to that? Anybody know? The chaplain know. Anything that you can come up with off the top of your head? All kinds of stuff. Okay, what kind of stuff? Psychologically, mentally, physically? It's a whole host of things. What'd you say? They could be discriminated against right out the bat, right? But Army policy says what? We will not harass or discriminate. All right? Consideration and responsibilities. You treat everybody with what? Dignity and respect. All right? Soldier chose to discuss the transition with his colleagues and will likely be open to sincere, respectful questions about the process. But let me let you know something up front. You know, you had 2 to 3 drinks on a Saturday night, and you decide to tell Sergeant Major Alfonso, who is Al off duty, that you're thinking about going through the transgender process. And he disagrees with that. What do? Anybody know? Right here. What do? Yeah, you looking around right there. No, the one behind you. Right. No, not you, him. Everybody pointing around him, he's like, no, not me. Now, what do you do? That's an option. You can walk away. But if you done had 3 drinks, right? No, I ain't drinking. He drinking. So you done had 2 or 3 drinks. So automatically, your psychological skills, your SMEs, and everything comes to light, right? You're more experienced now because of those 2 to 3 drinks, right? What were you going to say? Yeah. How about, that's a good answer. What's your name? We got a gift for you in the back. All right. That's a good answer. How about saying, have you thought this through? Let me tell you what I learned in my training on the process. Because you got to start the process no matter what. That makes sense, right? All right, next slide. Real life experience off duty. Let me see. Somebody read that vignette. Captain McGroom. All right.
A soldier in your unit is transitioning from male to female. As part of the medical treatment plan, the soldier dresses as a female, real life experience off duty.
Okay. Now what? Okay, that's the book answer. Okay, so what transpires? What transpires when you see something like that? A lot of questions. What else? Give me some. Say it again. Halloween. Well, you got to be careful with that. They got to be, because they could be 6'8", 280, and if you say it's Halloween, you're gonna be with Sergeant Major Reimers out in the parking lot. It ain't gonna be nice. So automatically, we're people, right? First thing we do, let's be human for a minute. First thing you do is judge. Right? I'm surprised. You'd be like, man, he was on the basketball team last week. He scored 40 points. We judge, right? But the policy says we should treat everybody with dignity and respect. You know, see, right now, the vignettes really mean nothing until the conversation starts. Because I want to know what you really feel as a person off duty, out of your uniform, and you see Sergeant Jones, who's your supervisor, at the club, dropping it like it's hot, with a wig on, makeup, and a dress. I don't think the conversation is going to be, well, we should treat everybody with dignity and respect. There you go, Sarge. Colonel.
I think you should go up to the individual, let them know that you did see him. Then do the training and ask, does anybody else know, or should you keep it to yourself? Because if you don't, you're going to talk about it, and like I said, you may not want anyone else to know. Then you say, hey, I saw you, so other people might see you, so if you want to keep it to yourself, you might want to go a little bit further out.
Or some people, good answer, thank you. Some people may see you, and they tell Colonel Druitt. And then Colonel Druitt tell this guy, and this guy tell Mikey, and Mikey tell Jose on the camera, right? And then Jose tell Mr. Ricks from FM. You know he can't keep a secret. I told you I was going to get you, right? You see, and so the next thing you see is all this chatter about this one soldier has been spread around, and everybody has formed their own opinion, right? Is that the right thing to do? Okay, because the policy says we got to treat everybody with dignity and respect. Next slide.
You had a question.
Question. Who got a question? If you stand up, I can see that you got a question. Yes, ma'am. Hold on. Give me that. No, this one. Hey, where's Sergeant, what's the name? Where's Sergeant Toomey? Because for some reason, I think this is going to be a good question. I do, I really do.
Who had the question?
Right there.
This is,
Y'all didn't turn the mic on? Y'all set it up for faith. Go ahead.
is it working? No, it's not working.
Hey, Richie, your mic ain't working, man.
Okay. All right, I guess just...
That's, okay, go ahead.
So just to understand the rules, if a soldier is not going through a transition process, do they not have the option on their off-duty time to dress as they wish? Number one. Number two, reasonable expectations. If you are in public, why should that refrain? Why should someone be refrained from just making, as long as it's not demeaning, a comment about what they saw? I guess it could be a normal conversation. I don't understand if you could.
Okay, let's start with number two. unless we're soldiers and civilians, but we're human, right? Make sure that you're okay and that person's okay with you asking that question. Meaning you got to know them. Meaning you need to know them, right?
No, I mean, if I recognize someone, right? I mean, there's many people here that we work with, I don't know them personally.
Okay.
But if I see them in a public setting and I happen to recognize them, and I make maybe a comment to someone else that also works in the same organization who may or may not know the person.
Okay.
And it's just a comment, call it gossip or whatever you want to categorize it as, but it's a comment, it's not like I'm making fun of the person, it's just more on a shock value perhaps. So that's just human nature.
Right.
So I think it's from a reasonable expectation perspective.
Okay.
To think that you're not allowed to even make a statement about it.
Well, you got to think about this. There's one word I learned in 27 years in the military was perception. Okay? That word goes a long way. So now it's allowed, right? So what you got to think about is you got to feel comfortable talking to that person, or if you're mentioning it to some other coworker, you know, just like the office cooler gossip and talk, word gets around. So just be able, by being that person, be able, if it comes back to you, be able to speak up for what you said. Because you could and truly hurt that person's feeling. They might not want nobody to know. But at the same, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But if you're in a public setting, that means you're okay with other people knowing it, is what I'm saying. But if I'm going to give you a different, and I don't mean to take so much time, but if I decide to dress in a sexy dress, has nothing to do really with the topic. I'm just saying I'm okay with people seeing me that way. So if someone has a problem with it or wants to make a comment about it, I don't see where the big deal is. Just to kind of give you a frame of reference of what I am trying to compare, what the information is being transmitted to me anyways. But the bigger question, I guess, that I have, that's more of a comment. So, but the bigger question that I have right now is, can a soldier choose to dress in a different, as a different gender, even if they are not going to a transition period?
IG. Well, before you come back, I think Sergeant, right there on the, you good? She had a comment.
I mean, I would refer to Army Regulation 670-1, which talks about how you should dress on and off duty.
And correct me, all the sergeant majors are out there, that I'm pretty sure you know that regulation more than the lawyer. I'm pretty sure I can't think of anywhere either that talks about, prohibiting you from dressing as long as it is in a conservative and way that you are not denigrating your rank, your person or the army, and the context in which you're dressing. If I'm at the beach and I want to wear Speedos, I guess that's okay under the regulation, even if I'm Lieutenant Colonel Rivera. But I can't show up at work wearing Speedos, right? That would be completely unprofessional, uncalled for, and violation of the regulation.
Well, another part to that I will add is the fact, you saw in like the third slide, nothing changes unless the identification marker has been changed in DEERS, right? And in order to do that, you got to go through the process. So basically, what will happen is you're still held to the same standard, the same Army standard that governs that issue.
So the soldier can wear a wig, a dress, but once they put earrings on, now we cross 670-1. I'm just asking the question.
You said that update to 670-1. Males are allowed to wear earrings. I think
Roger. I think he had something over there in the corner. Sorry, to me. We'll get him. Oh, okay. That'll work. So that way y'all can keep the mic. Where'd he go? Oh, she go.
Well, in AR 670-1, paragraph 2-10, okay, it states that during the hours of military personnel are required to be present for duty, they will conform their dress and appearance to the standards prescribed by AR 670-1.
But that's when on duty. That's when on duty.
It's only during the hours of duty, as said in paragraph 2-10, 670-1.
Now you also got to realize that this is new, right? So changes are coming. Just be aware of that. This is new. We didn't all become experts yesterday. So what's going to happen is there's going to become Alarac messages and changes to this whole thing. Okay? Now what I'd like to do, yes.
Are we defining transgender as the physical transformation, or can someone fall into that category as transgender without the physical transformation? And does that give them that Deere's changeover and the ability to use the other bathrooms, the other ability, and the other showers?
So what you're saying is, saying the word transgender, do they have to go through the medical process and the change and all of that? No. It's once they go through the process, they can go through the process and not have the complete change. And once that identity marker is marked in Deere's, they now fall into whatever that category is, the standard that relates to what they relate to. Is that good?
It does not require surgical procedure.
Correct. Anybody else? At this time, I'd like to open up any questions for the panel. Colonel Maslevich, Sergeant Shepard, Colonel Rivera, and Chaplain Sedgwick. If you have any questions that relate to this training that they can answer, now is the time that you can ask. Yes, sir.
Someone asked earlier, can a person get married in uniform to another person, same sex, in uniform?
Okay, so that goes back to the regulation again. Okay, now, if that transgender marker has been changed and they went through the process, the answer is what? Yes. Plain and simple. Yes.
Okay, my question is now, we're kind of discussing this over here, is that if you don't have to have the medical procedure to be considered transgender, is the government going to be opening those facilities to both, like, so for example, we went to the gym and we're in the shower. They can just walk in even though they haven't had the whole procedure done.
Correct. Once the gender marker has been changed, they're left to the standard of whatever they relate to. Plain and simple. Now, is it going to make some people uncomfortable? Absolutely. We had the same question with our ASAP. Okay, what happens when you're doing a urinalysis and you're really not aware of that change or that marker, and you give up the ID card and they look at the number? They're not looking at all of that. Then when you go in and you say, on my thing, I identify with being female, I want the other cup. You don't have to say that. I wouldn't say that. But, you know, you have to treat everybody with dignity and respect. Treat people like you want to be treated. Yes, ma'am. No, I want it.
Well, I guess, and I'm not attacking that because I can't change it. So with that being said, the average person, if we're using this shower instance, we won't know if they are legitimately identified as that. You know what I'm saying? So what are the repercussions, or what are they looking at and what they're sitting at? If someone just says, say for instance, it's a person that didn't, that doesn't identify with being female, but they're male, they want to go in the female bathroom and do it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Just walk in there.
Okay, so her question is, what if somebody, they haven't done the process, They haven't had the ID marker changed. They just want to go into the female bathroom. That's a legitimate question. But guess what? Be prepared for the standard, and be prepared for somebody to challenge, and be prepared to answer up to UCMJ. It's just that simple. Okay? Sir?
Where does the year's gender marker, how do you know that?
Well, I personally haven't, I understand where they're going to make the marker. I do know that the marker is made within the DEERS system. So there's probably going to be some kind of mark on the back of the ID card that indicates that. You know, on the back where it says category 1, 2, probably something to that effect. What's you got, Chief? At the end, correct. Because it. Right, okay, good question, Chief. What he's saying is, when does the identity marker come into place? Okay, you have to go through the process. It's initiated, you have to have a medical diagnosis, then you go through the process. You see what I'm saying? Now, you know who else is aware of the process? The commander, right? The commander has the sign. See what I'm saying? So it's at the end of the process. Once you go through the process, then you do the proper paperwork, you go to ID card section, you go into DEERS, and they make the marker change.
So is the marker at the end of the process?
Right. 24-month process. It doesn't have to be, right, it doesn't have to be the surgery. You just go through the diagnosis and the process.
That's what I need clarity on. So,
Okay, go ahead.
the 24-month is the surgery and the
So what you, let him finish.
So again, for the medical piece of this, everybody's going to be individualized. What a transition is for one person isn't going to be the same for another. The timeline is going to be extremely variable. And don't forget, you're looking at counseling, you're looking at hormone therapy, all kinds of issues. But again, once the military medical provider decides that you've completed your transition, that's when you've completed it.
Yes, ma'am.
So, once you get that marker on the ID card, is that when you use the bathroom? But until then, the transition period, you're not allowed.
Correct. Once the markers change, you become, that standard is what you become.
So it's all about the marker.
It's all about the marker. I saw somebody else. Rod.
Hey, do we contact Oregon already so they can create a transgender restroom in Building 1000?
Say that, I didn't hear you all the way. I just heard.
Like the state of Texas, you create transgender restrooms.
I think what you're meaning to say is a non-gender
Discretion. Right.
I hope that's what you mean. Gender neutral.
Exactly that, whatever. They're going to create one in Building 1000?
I don't think so.
Oh, just one?
You can put in a request. I mean. No. No, I don't think so. Okay. What I'd like to do now, any questions? Okay.
One last question. During that 24-month transition process, is that soldier still deployable, or is that kind of taking him or her off the readiness
I
track?
would tell you from a practical standpoint, they're not ready because you're talking about a lot of appointments, a lot of medications, things that would not make you ready, and I would not deploy you.
And that was identified in the leaders training that all the leaders, the 06s, the colonels, and the sergeant majors took. That was answered in that. Okay?
Now, I just want to clarify one thing. In a situation of a deployable soldier, the commander has the authority to postpone
Any
the
deployments.
continuation of the treatment based on mission requirements.
Right.
In the end, it's all about the mission. Okay, so, if I have a unit that is deployed to Afghanistan and this soldier happens to be, an interpreter, and I just need this soldier, and in consultation with the medical doctors, the commander will have to make a decision whether it is feasible or not to deploy the soldier and with that will affect the mission or not.
Now, sir, that's the commander's discretion or the medical discretion?
Combined effort.
In the end, it's kind of both, but in the end, the commander, when he makes a decision, in consultation with legal, the medical, he better have a strong footing of why the mission overrides the needs of the soldiers. That could happen. For example, you could have a female going through the transgender process into male, and for that, all you may require is, like, let's say, hormonal treatment. So if she's, let's say, deployed to Baghdad, and in Baghdad the doctors can mail her the hormonal medication, then she could, it will be okay for the commander to say, yeah, sure, deploy her then, we'll take care of her, all that. Now, if it's an issue that, no, her hormonal treatment requires her, that she had the doctor present or something like that, and then, the commander will have to make the call in the end. But there is nothing that precludes the commander from postponing the treatment because of mission requirements.
And like we said earlier, it's a combined effort between medical, the command, and whatever counseling they're going through at the time.
Who paid for all this?
The Army.
It's a matter just...
This is like a 3 or 4 part question real quick.
So it ain't going to be real quick then.
I got a couple of things on my head.
Okay.
Hopefully I'm not the only one here with this kind of stuff on my head. Let me ask you. Your expertise being a senior non-commissioned officer in the Army, you know that everything's based on a budget.
Right.
We experience it here right now in Army South. I know that the government's going to pay for whatever transition medical procedure this personnel is going to be going for 24 months.
Right.
Man, this is, clarify for me, please. 24 months for the procedure. Surgery or no surgery, correct though?
Correct.
Now.
And again, we're not saying it's just 24 months, it could be much longer.
Exactly.
Or less.
To my point, like my officers here in this ground, when you guys got permission, guys and girls, got permission, you have to commit to our government for how many months? What's the minimum? Anybody? 8 years? 8 years, right? For me, I had to come into the Army. The minimum contract when I enlisted when I came in, correct me if I'm wrong, my sergeant, was 3 years, right? 36 months.
Roger.
36 months.
Right.
You see where I'm going with this question?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, are we going to hold these people accountable for it? Because I'm paying taxpayers. I'm paying money. You know what I'm saying? It's my money. So I want to know. Officers get committed for 8 years. I signed a contract with 36 months. So what's going to happen? Because we're going through a transition in 24 months that we're going on the medical. I can deploy. Okay. Maybe it's going to be longer. Okay. So then what? What's going to happen after the 24 months? IG, legal, chaplain, man. I mean, I need to know. I mean, is my money going to be used wisely? Because if I'm a civilian, it's smart from the Bronx, I'm just going to go in, have the government pay for my surgery, and then I'm out of my way. Am I wrong? I said like 4 or 5 questions.
Right. I got you.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, I mean, those are all, of course, could be characterized, philosophical questions in many ways. I mean, are we going to argue the same with female soldiers that become pregnant? And some people claim the same. And the bottom line is that the treatment, as it is right now, written in the regulation, this is considered a medical treatment. Just the same way if I require medical treatment, I have the right to go to see the doctor. And taxpayers pay for that too.
We're still committed to a service, sir. If I'm unfit, I'll go up see a doctor.
But he is committed too. What makes you think that they're not committed to the Army? Can you give me a real life example?
Let Sergeant Major have a shot. Here you go. We all need to hear you.
There's none. Okay. You get ran over by a train and have to be rebuilt for 8 years of medical treatment. They're not going to make you commit to another portion of the service. It's the same difference.
Sergeant Major, they'll remember, with all the respect that I have for you, Sergeant Major, they'll remember we got what I said, and I know that.
Not necessarily.
They give it to another case, Sergeant Major.
Not necessarily.
Anytime you see 12 months of a temporary profile, you get P3, Sergeant Major. I went to the whole
That
process.
is not
But let me wheel this thing in. It's still, you're not going to really get an answer because this thing is new. Just like I said, there's going to be changes. But at the same time, you got to understand the process. There's just not one individual. You have to understand from the soldier's perspective, you got to understand from the commander's perspective, the medical professional, and the counselors, that this person identifies and this person medically needs this process to go through. Okay, are we going to get an answer for every question you ask today? Absolutely not. Okay, but what we can do is let you know what the policy is, let you know that it's here, and kind of get together as a group to discuss some of the scenarios that can come out of this type of change. Okay, now I hope that kind of answers your questions. Appreciate the panel, Colonel Mislevich, Sergeant Shepard. You got another question? Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if there's been policies and regulations that are going to state ways to avoid confusion between sexual harassment and being able to protect that person who's going through a decision process and the other individual who may confuse hormone activity versus sexual harassment.
She wants to know if the regulation is going to be changed to add this type of scenario to it. I do know that AR 600-8 is being changed as we speak. I know the SHARP regulation is being changed as we speak. So it's going to catch up. Okay? Like I said, I'd like to thank Sergeant Shepard, Colonel Mislevich, Colonel Rivera, the Chaplain Sedgwick for their time and coming out here to put on this training, answer some of these questions. I do understand a lot of your questions aren't answered. But we didn't come here today to answer all your questions. We came here today to talk about the policy, the process, and how it goes. Thank you for your time. You got anything, Chief? Thank you. Have a good day. 59 minutes.